Yeah, long time no see, everybody. We are glad to be through that brutal stretch of 4 matches in 6 days. Glad to get 2 wins. We've got a major challenge ahead of us this weekend at New Mexico State. An old rival back from our Sun Belt days from years gone by, way back earlier in my career. These were the first ever NCAA tournament that WKU volleyball played in. We beat New Mexico State in 5 in the conference championship to get there. We were longtime rivals. They were very, very good back then. They're very, very good now. So that'll be a real challenge for us this weekend. But, hopefully we can just get some rest this week on the front end before we head out there on yet another beautiful Conference USA road trip that's all the way across America. And so rest is at the top of the agenda this week to try to get our legs back under us before we hit the road.
What did you see from your team in that 4 games in 6 days? I know you guys play a lot of weekend, non-conference and play tournament, but that seems to be a lot of
honestly fatigue. This weekend a lot of times I can tell by how I feel. And they're obviously doing a lot more than I'm doing, but man, I was kind of, this weekend and just fatigued. And this week I'm going to try to let my experience as a coach dig in this week with our team. We're gonna really, as coaches, you always crave that practice time, but I honestly think we've just got to get their legs back under them a little bit. It's just been a brutal stretch, and our kids are spent right now, and it's hard to get your legs back under you during season, but we're going to do some things this week to hopefully help that happen, because we were a very tired team this weekend, mentally and physically.
Obviously going on the road to play Liberty, knowing that was going to be a really tough matchup, sweeping them in the first match and then in the second match, knowing that they were going to come back with everything they had and go into 5. How much really did it take, especially to just stay strong and just stay dialed in?
Yeah, it was good to see us just hang in there. I think that tough non-conference schedule paid some dividends there, being in that moment. But, we're kind of in that stretch of the season where we're fighting ourselves a little bit, and not fighting amongst ourselves. We've got great chemistry, but just, it's kind of getting hard. It's kind of getting long. It's, all that kind of stuff. And again, every time we take the floor, we're the biggest match on somebody's schedule left, and so we're getting people's best shot every single day. And so we knew that they would come back and play the way they did. We know what we're walking into against New Mexico State. And, our team, like I said, I'm not concerned about where our team is. We're awfully good. We've had a good year, but we're just worn down a little bit right now, both mentally and physically. And so, hopefully if we can get through this weekend, then I think, we're at home for 2 of the next 3, and, we can just really get back into the weekend schedule of things. But just trying to hang in there and get rested more than anything else.
You mentioned an old rivalry with New Mexico State, with the conference changing so much, how does it have, almost a renewing of a rivalry?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I didn't realize it's been as long as it's been since we played them, but when we were both in the league together in the Sun Belt days, that was in the infancy of our program. We were an up-and-comer. New Mexico State was the program in the Sun Belt Conference at the time, and we were, like I said, our first ever NCAA tournament came, through them in a 5-setter, and they had the best of us back in those days most nights. And Mike's a really good coach, and they're good every single year. I think their RPIs, I know their RPIs in the top 100 right now, and they're good again. But it felt like it was only 10 years ago, but geez, it's been 20 years ago. And but it was a great rivalry back then. They have a great fan base at New Mexico State, and so it's going to be a buzzsaw we walk into down there on Friday.
You mentioned the fatigue and everything. How much is that challenge even more? Certainly, I don't think travel's good at any time, but considering where you're on the stretch, it's a pretty long trip.
Isn't it? Yeah, I don't know that you want to fly to the other end of the United States, but it's just the nature of this league right now, and everybody has to do it at some point. Some years your schedule falls a little bit better than others in terms of who you have at home and who you have on the road and all that kind of stuff. And this just happens to be one of those tough, fatiguing stretches for us right now. And, every season it seems like early in the year you're on a high and then you kind of hit this lull, and then at the end you start crawling back out and you see the end is near and it's tournament time. And these are kind of the dog days right now. And, the fact that we went to Liberty and kind of grinded out a couple wins down there, and then we're able to come home and get two. And, this is just that tough stretch for us right now. But, I think that, champions rise to the occasion. And if you want to win a championship, I say this all the time, I think the most difficult thing to do every single year is win a regular season conference championship. I say this every year. Tournament championship, you have to be good for 3 days. Regular season championship, you have to be good for 2.5 months, through road trips and sicknesses and injuries and, all those kinds of things. And, it's weeks like this, it's what makes it hard. And so we'll have to find it within ourselves down there. And then we play, not only is it a long road trip, but we're playing twice in about 18 hours. You play and then you get up the next morning and you're right back in the gym playing again. And, when you're playing high-level competition, that's a pretty tall order.
For you, Travis, obviously over this past weekend, player-wise, Paige had a really good day on Saturday. She came back Sunday, maybe a little bit of that fatigue kind of set in, but she really prospered on the defensive end of things, and then really had Haley Cox and step up. So just the importance of maybe it's not your day, but others you're going to have to step up.
Yeah, I just think you see the veteranness that is Paige Briggs. Again, she's carried a big load for us. And so, when you see her, there was a time when if she didn't play well offensively, then she was going to probably check out on you. And for her, you see this weekend, actually, she was the first person I talked about in the locker room after the match Sunday, because offensively her numbers were certainly average for her. But all of a sudden you see her start filling the stat sheet up with aces and digs and all these other things. And that's what makes that kid an All-American, is she finds ways to win. And, and she certainly did that for us this weekend.
Version the halfway point, your conference play, have you felt any differences from last year to this year?
Oh, yeah, we're totally, as a team, we're totally different. We're unscathed at this point, win-loss wise, but we're a totally different looking team, a totally different team. Last year we were so veteran and anchored by those two senior middles and then a kid like Paige on the pin. And, this year we're so young in the middle and so vulnerable. And, we still have our vulnerabilities. And I say that positively, though, because we're 16-4. We're maybe back in the top 25 this week. We're 19 in the RPI. When you can do that as you regrow and regenerate your program, through graduation, that's a pretty strong thing to be able to say. And so, last year at the 20 match mark, which is where we are right now, we kind of knew who we were. This year, we're still evolving. We're still different. That's why it makes it so difficult on weeks like this when you need rest, because you also desperately need that practice time. And so it's a real give and take, and you have to decide, what's going to benefit your team more. And, to be in the gym practicing all week would benefit our team more long term, but to be in the gym practicing all week probably won't benefit us as much short term in the New Mexico State series, just because of the fatigue from the trip.
So what are you hoping to see from this squad? Obviously, just kind of bouncing back and just giving them that rest that they need in order to kind of.
That's going to be the exchange. I'm going to give them some time off this week in hopes of just getting great energy and competitiveness. Forget winning 2 at New Mexico State. It's going to be difficult to win 1. And, if we can go get a split this weekend at New Mexico State, it puts us in the driver's seat in the conference race. It would be their third loss in conference play, and it would be our first, and everybody in the league will have had 3 losses. And so with 8 to go, we would have a 2-game lead, and I like our chances in that regard. So a split is crucial this weekend. A sweep is, you know, is a really special weekend for us. So we just got to try to find a way to go down there and get one.
Anything else?
Good deal. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I